Good evening to all the participants. I welcome you on behalf of Madras Tax Bar. Today we have a special session, a very important session, I would say, which is on how to deal with this stress of 2020, especially with the ongoing pandemics, both personally as well as professionally. Today we have a speaker. She, in fact, is my cousin also, uh, Manisha Bhansali. She has done her MSc in She has done her MSc in. Uh, am I audible, Manisha?
Yes, you are audible now.
Sorry. I'm sorry. So, she has done her MSc in counseling psychology, and she is a certified mindfulness practitioner. She has 5+ years of practice, and now she is currently working with Vaitya Buddy and Pinky Mind. She does her own individual practice also in Chennai. So I welcome Manisha for and I thank her to accept our invitation and to take this session for us today. Thank you very much, Manisha. Yes, so before we start, the question and answer session will be at the end of the presentation. You can put in your questions in the chat box. If Manisha finds any of the questions to be answered immediately, she will take up the questions in between. If not, at the end of the session, those questions will be answered. Or at the end, if you want to interact with her personally, you can raise your hands in the app. I will unmute every one of you, each one of you, and then we can take up the questions in order. So thank you once again. Manisha, over to you.
Right. Thank you, Prithvi, and good evening to everyone over here. It's so nice to meet you all. And I am sincerely appreciating Madras Tax Bar, Prithvi, and his entire team for bringing this topic and giving me the opportunity to address the need of the hour. I'm not very good at one-sided presentation. I usually love to interact, but keeping in mind the time constraints and the structure of this seminar, I would love to interact with you towards the end in the question round. So if you have any questions, you can put them on the chat box, or you can raise your hand, and by the end of the presentation, I will surely answer your question. So I'm going to begin the presentation now. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes. Just make it to full screen now.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So firstly, I'd like to say that this is not going to be something like a very serious lecture. This is something for our benefit. So please feel free to be comfortable at all times and listen to it like as if you're just listening to some bhajan or something which is very down to earth, because I want all of you all to connect with everything that I'm speaking and enjoy this presentation as it is. So yes, today's topic is an informative and interactive talk for Madras Tax Bar on stressful 2020, how to take care of yourself personally and professionally. As you can see these three pictures out here, it is just a funny way to say how today's scenario is, where we are so afraid of the coronavirus, but at the same time we have to step out. What is important is to make sure that you take the right precautions when you are stepping out. There's a lot of stress and frustration and breakdown and pressure, which we will be addressing how to deal with in this presentation today. Again, we have a mask for the coronavirus, but we also need a mask for the fake news. So let's deal with this stressful 2020 together. Before we talk about stress, let us understand what is the mind. Right? Now, the mind is actually everything. The mind is what we think, what we do, what we feel, and everything is controlled by the mind. Unfortunately, it is also a very lightly spoken subject. There is a saying that what we think is what we become. So we have to train our mind just the way we train our body. We also have to take rest for our mind just the way we rest our body. I'm going to put a light on what the mind compasses of. So the mind has both cognitive as well as non-cognitive aspects. Okay, so cognitive aspects, as we all know, is the consciousness, imagination, perception, thinking, judgment, language, and memory, which we use on our day-to-day basis. And the non-cognitive aspect is the emotion and the psychology of the mind that we often speak of.
Manisha, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you adjust your camera a little bit?
Sorry?
Can you adjust your camera a little bit?
Okay, yeah. Is it visible now? Am I visible
Yes.
now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, right. Like we all know, the nature of the mind is to be active. But too much thinking and too much feeling can actually lead to cognitive fatigue. And as we know that anything that is too active can destroy its own essence. So if we have to use our mind and its abilities to the fullest, we have to make sure that we give it enough rest. Any doubts until now on the mind? Right. So I'm going to bring to you another concept from psychology. This concept was given by the cognitive psychologist Aaron Beck. Okay. Now Aaron Beck had spoken to us about how our thoughts, how our emotions, and how our behavior, all three work together. So thoughts is what we think, which affects what we act and what we feel. Emotions is what we feel, which again affects how we think and how we do, what we act as. And behavior, which is what we act, is also affected by and affects what we think and what we feel. To understand this better, let me give you an example. Okay, so suppose we know of somebody who has, let's say, a little low self-esteem, who is not very confident about themselves. So they are always thinking that they are underconfident. They're always thinking that they cannot do their best. And this triggers the emotions in them that they are weak, that they do not have the abilities to do anything by themselves. That emotion triggers the behavior that I will rather shut myself up and not talk about what I feel or what I value or what my thinking is. So when that person is already having a low self-esteem, their emotion and their behavior is also working towards that thought. So that behavior of not doing anything, not voicing out for themselves, also creates the feeling of low self-esteem. So when we think about this pattern of thinking in our day-to-day lives, you can see a lot of instances where you have predetermined thinking about something, and then you have a feeling connected to it, and your behavior also is overlapping with what you feel and what you think. Let me know if you have any doubts so far. You can raise your hand, or you can have your questions put in the chat box. And Prithvi will let me know if there is any more questions. Right. Now here's a very interesting concept, which I would like you to relate to your mind. Okay. So this is a fireman's nightmare, which is the backdraft. Excuse me. So when there is fire in any building, what the fireman does is they step inside and use their fire extinguisher to put out all the fire inside the building. They also make sure to shut off all the doors and the windows so that there is no flow of oxygen from outside. Because what does the oxygen do? Oxygen can ignite fire if even there is a spark of fire in the building left. Now, this is actually a fireman's nightmare, backdraft. Backdraft means that even if there's one little molecule of oxygen inside the building, the explosion could happen again. Now, what I'm trying to do is bring you to understand this concept as in your mind. The mind is always storing up a lot of emotions. So when it stores up a lot of emotions, it explodes. What they do in this scenario is they make sure that all these tall buildings and offices and compartmentalized buildings, they have a concept of having a ventilation space where there'd be a little flow in of oxygen and flow out of oxygen, so that when a fire occurs, the backdraft is not happening. There are less chances of a double explosion. Similarly, with our mind, we have to have a space to vent out our emotions very often, so that when the time comes for something like an explosion, it doesn't really be so devastating. So what do we learn from this? Do not pile up your emotions. Piling them up can lead you to a backdraft. Have a timely ventilation. Okay. Now, how do you vent out your emotions? There are a lot of ways which we will come to towards the end of how to deal with your stress and how to deal with your emotions. But there's a very simple technique how to vent out is to just write down your thoughts or to speak to somebody who is a good listener. So we will be learning more coping skills in the following slides. Okay. Now coming to the next slide. What is stress and how we react to stress, right? So currently, if we all think about stress, we are associating the word stress to something negative. We always think stress means which is very negative and it's going to break us down, break us apart. Now, stress is something which is inevitable and it is a part of all our lives. Stress is a word that is very often used in the negative way, but it also means that it is a drive to push us to do something. Okay. By definition, stress is the body's normal reaction to any change that requires an adjustment or a response. So even if there is, let's say, an examination or some project to submit, or in most of your cases, you may have a case to present tomorrow before the judge. So you have that stress. And with that stress, you actually work harder to make sure you give your best performance. Now that stress is called eustress, which is the good stress. What we often use the word stress in negative way is distress. So this is a small chart to understand the level of stress and how it affects our performance. Now there's a calm stress, which is to do with our daily routine work. Suppose we have a meeting at 9, so we wake up at 7:30, do our routine work, and then get ready for the meeting. So that again involves some stress, which is the calm stress. Then comes the eustress, which is before the examinations or before any performance or before any presentation. And then comes the distress. It is very important for us to understand these terminologies before we actually get to how to resolve our stress. Okay, so stress has levels. What we deal with on a day-to-day basis and we are able to cope with is calm and eustress. When it comes to a very negative way of stress or feeling overwhelmed or feeling like you're going to have a breakdown, that is your distress. Let's address the elephant in the room. Yes, COVID stress. Currently, past 4 months precisely, we have been dealing with something called COVID stress. Now, COVID is a thing that we cannot really ignore or deny, but it is also important to learn how to deal with this COVID stress. If we look at it in the positive sense, this time is nature's gift to us to reflect back upon ourselves. But how to avoid this COVID stress and how to avoid worrying about getting the virus. There are a few, I call it the 5 A's, which is going to help you if you just remember in your fingertips, right? So the first one is accept. Well, accept that this virus is there in the world. Accept that it is a pandemic and each of us has an equal probability of getting the virus. But however, if we take the necessary precautions, we can save ourselves from the virus. Acceptance, I'd say, is the first step towards any solution to a problem. So it is very important that we accept that the virus is a part of our normal life. Second is aware. Now, we have to be aware of what the surrounding is. We have to be aware of how our body feels. And when that awareness comes in us, we would be able to better deal with COVID stress. Next is avoid. Of course, avoid the large gatherings, avoid stepping out, and avoid anything which can decrease your immune system. Appreciate. This is going to be a very hard one, but this is very important. This time that you have is probably not going to come back. This time that you have is the time which you have with your family, the time which you have with your friends, the time which you have with yourself. So appreciate that the time that you have and work on living that time to its fullest. Assure. Now this assurance is that when you look in the news, there's a lot of news talking about, the fakeness of the cases or giving the numbers in the wrong sense. You have to look at the real news and not the fake news. Assure yourself that although the virus is very easily spreading, the actual mortality rate is very less. Very high. There are only about 9% people dying of the virus, whereas 91% people are still recovering. And you can check this on worldometer.com on your internet. And also the seriously critical ill are only 1% when compared to the 99% who are affected by the virus. So yes, this virus exists, but worrying about it makes the chances of your recovery more less. Okay. So strengthen your mental strength, strengthen your immunity. And be more sensitive to the families who have suffered from the virus. They have not voluntarily taken the virus, but unfortunately they have been at the victim side of the virus. Okay, now let's come to what is occupational or professional stress. So I am actually giving you a brief about all these terminologies before we learn how to cope with stress, because it gives us an idea about how to deal with what we are talking about. So occupational stress and professional stress. Yes, this stress is when you feel there's a lot of workload. Okay, so some amount of stress gives you good performance, but when you feel there's a lot of things that you have to manage by yourself, you feel this occupational and professional stress. So when you have this stress is when you have a breakdown. So while you're at work, whenever you feel that you are on the verge of a breakdown, you have to take short breaks. That is your job stress, which is telling you to rest your mind. Personal stress. Right, like looking at the pictures, you'd get an idea of how our stress is at the moment. Right? Personal stress is basically anything which is very overwhelming. To dealing with noise, to dealing with a spouse trying out something new, or dealing with this on a daily basis, or just having no energy or no motivation to work. Personal stress is also depends upon how we look at things. We will come to that in the later slides, but this is just for you to understand what I mean by personal stress. Now, current situation is where we are all working from home. So these are some tips about how to manage stress while working from home. Yes, set work hours and stick to them. It is very important that you have a routine for yourself, even if you're in the comfort of your home while you're working. Accept that you might not be as productive as always, or it can also be vice versa. But acceptance is again very important to know where you stand. Set realistic goals and reward yourselves. Create boundaries and minimize distractions. Connect with your colleagues. This is very important that because when we go to a workplace and do our work, we are often connecting with people having the same issues or having the same kind of mindsets. When we are working from home, it might be a little difficult, but there are a lot of ways to connect with similar mindsets and similar working professionals. So please do connect while you're working from home, and again, prioritize your well-being. Okay. Now, let me bring you to another concept of psychology. Again, this is important for us to understand because we need to know how our mind functions on a daily basis to understand how to change the patterns of our work. Now, autopilot switch is like the default mode network, which is in our brain. Imagine like you're driving a car. And while driving, you feel you're not the one who's driving the car, but somebody else is driving for you. Now, that is what is autopilot switch. Sometimes it comes in handy. It is very useful as a switch, especially in terms of in cases of emergency, when we do not know how to react, but we're still doing things because of the autopilot switch. But sometimes, especially in this modern living, we have made autopilot switched on in our minds all the time. What we do is, especially when we're at home, we are doing a routine without realizing that there are people around us, without interacting with them. We're busy with just our routine work. So that is autopilot switch. So when we use this, we fail to see other options and we become rigid in thinking and in reacting. It is important to open your awareness to the options around you in order to react and think according to the current situation. Okay, coming to the next concept, which is pain, resistance, and suffering. Now, pain is anything which we experience in terms of our emotions, and resistance is when we avoid to believe that this pain is something coming from some suffering. So when we resist that pain, we come to suffering. There's a saying that accept your pain and the pain will become less. So this is a Buddhist formula which is very true when we look at in the routine life, in the normal life. When we resist accepting our pain, we suffer more. Imagine you're upset. So when you're upset, you're actually, you end up thinking about the distress or why you are upset. And then you end up ruminating about how being upset is not worth living life. And then there's a vicious cycle of pain. The first step to any problem solution, like I said before, is acceptance. When you accept pain, you will have the courage to fight it, to fight the emotion that is negative. And when you don't resist, suffering will not happen. So pain is inevitable and it's a part of our living. Every life has ups and downs, but suffering is optional. Okay. So we're going to come to talking about how to cope with stress. So far, if there are any doubts, I'd like to take doubts. If there's anybody who would like to, okay. Right, no doubt so far. Okay. How to cope with stress? Yes, point number one is take care of yourself. This is something which we all know, but we often fail to do. Right. So, okay. So I'm going to introduce you to something called the 7 pillars of self-care. 7 pillars of self-care is, we think self-care is only hygiene or looking or physical activity or eating, but it is also the other dimensions. First one is health literacy. Health literacy means how much you know about your own physical and mental health, and how much you know that what your body needs or what your mind needs. Second is self-awareness. Self-awareness is another important aspect to take care of yourself. How much are you aware of what your emotions are, what your needs are, and how to cope with them? Next is physical activity. It is very important to have at least 15 to 20 minutes of physical activity, especially during this time when we are not stepping out, not walking much, not doing anything. We're just in one place, we're just at home. So it is very important to have some kind of physical activity on a daily basis. Add that to your routine if you haven't yet already. Eating healthy. Yeah. Eating healthy also means not having anything which is too oily, too spicy, too unhealthy, junk. So you have to take care of how much you should eat and how healthy eating you should have. Risk avoidance. Now, risk avoidance is any habits or any addictions that you know is going to ruin your health. So please try to have a risk avoidance. Good hygiene. Yes, we are all at home. We can still be in our pajamas, but let's have a good routine of taking care of our basics every day. Rational use of products and services. Now, there are some people who just use money very abruptly and are on a spend spree, or you misuse the public properties. I think this lockdown time has given us all a lot of self-reflection and and taking care of the nature and using only what we need. This is another important thing that we have to all remember. Don't set unrealistic goals and expectations. Now, what are unrealistic goals and expectations? So, growing up, we are always told to behave like something or to do like something. When we become adults, that voice becomes our own critical voice inside our mind. We set unrealistic goals and expectations out of ourselves without actually knowing our capacity. We tend to run towards perfection, but what is important is to know how much is in your capacity and not how much is perfect, right? So even at work, when you want to get something out of your hard work, make sure you excel, but remember, perfection is the enemy of success. So if you keep trying to make something perfect, you will never reach the goal that you had set. So you don't have to be perfect, but do to the best of your abilities. Compare you from today to you from yesterday. We often compare ourselves with somebody outside of us, and that just makes us feel inferior. It is important to know that you are growing every single day. So if you have to compare you from today to you from yesterday and see if there is any growth. And if there's no growth, work on getting the growth. Let go of your failures. It is easier said than done, but this is a kind of attitude that you need to have, because failures, when you keep thinking about your failures, you will never focus on what are your capacities, what else could you do. So let go of your failures and let go of your mistakes. It is human to make mistakes. And as a human, it is okay that you reflect on your mistakes and learn from your mistakes, but not keep holding on to them. Before I talk about this slide, I want you to all watch a video. It's gonna take 1 minute. Can everybody see my screen? Prithvi, can you answer me?
We can only see your presentation till now.
Okay. If I play this, is it playing?
No, we are still not able to see the video. It is still stuck to the presentation.
Right. I think then I have to stop this and replay it, but it's okay. Let's skip the video. Let me tell you about what that video has. So the video is trying to say that there are some things that our minds are fixated on, and we only notice those things. We avoid seeing what else is there in our surroundings. Let me come to this picture. If you look at this picture, this individual, which is an adult, has a lot of things on his mind. They're out there in the nature, the father and the child, while the child could see the nature as it is, but the father can only keep thinking about the other things which are there on his mind. So are you really mindful, or are you mindful? This concept was given by Buddhism. It is also known as the Zen principle, the principle of mindfulness. We are often thinking about a lot of things and do not focus on our present. The mind is like a pendulum. It is either oscillating in our past or in our future. And while it's oscillating in the past and the future, it fails to come and live the present. Imagine a child's brain. The child's brain is always focused at what it needs in the present. And that is the kind of nature that we all need to have. We have to be in the here and now. While we cannot go back to our past and change what has happened, we also cannot go to our future and predict what is going to happen. What we can only do is focus in the here and now and focus on what we need to make better and how to live in the present. Now, let me give you a few examples of how to apply this concept. Right. Okay. So there is a technique called mindful walking. Mindful walking is when you are doing your routine walk. Connect with the nature around you. Listen to the birds chirping. Look at the strength the sunlight has on you. Interact with people. Even if you're not interacting to a stranger, just interact with your facial expression and your body language. Be more in the present. So while you take every step when you're walking, activate all your senses. Your seeing, your hearing, the smell, and your touch. Another thing that you can try is mindful eating. So mindful eating is a concept when you are eating. So often we do eat food without actually understanding what we're eating. We're either on the phones, or our mind is occupied in the TV, or we are only working towards what we got to go, what we have to do next. Mindful eating is a concept where you have to focus on what you're eating. So before you actually take a bite of what you want to eat, look at the food, smell the food, and then put it in your mouth. This is going to help your mind focus in the present, in the activity which you're doing. Now, this is a scenario which is there, I think, in every household at the moment. A man or a woman washing dishes. Now, washing dishes is it's like an autopilot activity. It's a very mindless activity where you can just keep washing and keeping it. But now onwards, I want you to try this. Look at what you're washing. Feel the texture of the soap in your hand. Smell the detergent or the soap that you're using, and sense the cleanliness of the vessels after you've washed it. Try this and let me know how it helps you bring your mind to focus on your activity. Another thing is sleeping mindfully. I'm going to teach you an exercise after this, which is going to help you bring your consciousness to your present self and focus on what you're doing in the here and now, which you can try just before you sleep so that it helps you have a calmer mind when you sleep. Right. Okay. So this is called body scan meditation. Right now, I want all of you, wherever you're sitting or wherever you're lying down, I want you to just find yourself a comfortable way to sit. Okay. You can follow this later. Let me just help you with the body scan meditation and let me teach you how it works. You can take a screenshot of this in the end so that you have an idea of how this works. So please sit comfortably. Put your feet on the ground. Your hands on your thighs. If you can see me, just follow me. Okay. Put your back in a comfortable position. You don't have to strain yourself. Just relax. Close your
Manisha,
eyes. Yeah.
Manisha, I would suggest we can stop the screen share so that all of them can see you properly, like how you're doing.
Okay, right. So I'll do that and then I'll come back.
I'll close it. I'll close it.
Okay.
And then I can, yeah.
Is that good?
You can adjust your camera a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Is everybody able to see me?
Yes, yes, more clear.
Okay. So just follow my instructions and do the meditation as I'm doing it. It'll be better if you close your eyes and you do it because it's a kind of experience that you need to feel and you need to experience in your body while you're doing it. Okay. So close your eyes. Sit comfortably. Remember, this is no class, this is no lecture. There is no right or wrong way of doing it. Just do however your comfort is. Take a deep breath. Inhale. Exhale. Do as per your comfort. Inhale. Exhale. And again, inhale. Exhale. Bring your focus to your forehead, the top of your head, and the back of your head. Focus on the muscles surrounding your head. Focus on the tightness of your mind. Release the tightness. Relax your mind. Keep breathing. Release all the tension. Relax. Relax. Now bring your focus to your facial muscles, the forehead, your eyes, the muscles around the eyes, your nose, chin, cheeks, ears, lips. Focus on each part of your face. Notice the tension. Release the tension. Relax your muscles. Keep breathing. Relax. Relax. Now slowly bring your focus to your neck, the muscles surrounding your neck. Notice the tightness. Adjust yourself if you have to. Release the tightness around your neck. Calm your body. Relax. Relax. Bring your focus to your shoulders, the muscles around your shoulders. Notice all the tightness that is there. Notice how the tension has been building up on your shoulders. Remember, you don't have to keep the tension in your body. Remove that tension. Relax your body, relax your shoulders. Take a deep breath. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Bring the focus on your hands, your upper arms, your forearm, fingers. Notice the blood flow in your hands. Notice the tightness in the muscles. Release the tightness. Relax your hands. Relax. Relax. Now bring your focus to your chest, the chest muscles, the back, spinal cord, muscles surrounding your spinal cord. Release all tension, release the stress. Relax. Relax. If you find tightness in any particular part of your body, remember you have to release it. It's in your body, it's in your hands. All you have to do is release. Now bring your focus to your pelvic muscles, your thigh muscles, your legs, feet, toes. Notice how the blood flows from the pelvis to the toes. Relax your muscles. Release the tension. Notice the blood flow. Keep focusing on breathing. Even if your mind has different thoughts, it's okay. Don't force to stop your mind. Let the thoughts wander. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Relax your entire body. And when you're ready, slowly open your eyes. Coming back. I hope everybody is feeling a little relaxed and not sleepy.
Which everyone has to follow at night. They will share their experiences during the interaction round, Manisha. You can keep proceeding.
Yeah, sure. Yes, please try this. It's a very simple meditation. It's a very simple way to relax. Try it at night, just before you sleep, especially keeping your phones away, keeping the blue light of the phones away, and focusing on your body from head to toe. You can also do from toe to head. I usually prefer starting from the head because that is where our thoughts are wandering the most. So it helps to calm the body from the top too. Right. So moving on to the next slide. Okay. Now habit formation. So this is another way to cope with stress, which is an important way that we all need to work on. We all are so busy in our routine that we do not focus on the good behavior or the good habits that we need to cultivate. Now, the cycle of habit formation is that we form a routine and we have a reward to the habit. Now, when that reward is received, the cue for the same habit is cultivated again and it brings back the routine. Right. Let me give you an example of this, which is a healthy way to channelize your thoughts, your negative thoughts especially. So journal writing. Now, journal writing is what we psychologists believe that helps the mind let go of the thoughts that are there in the mind. And it helps us to reflect back on our own thoughts and look at it in a different way. Using the same cognitive triad that I had explained before is how you can write and start a journal writing habit. You can have a cue to the journal writing. Say you have one particular time in a day for at least 5 to 10 minutes where you journal your thoughts. Have a cue about, keep the diary or keep your journal book very close to your bed or close to somewhere, some place where you visit often in a day, and journal your thoughts. Even if it takes 2 minutes, writing down what you are thinking at that moment and what you've been carrying all the day, it's a very important way to let go of that negative thought that you're holding. And the reward of your journal writing could be something you will feel after you put down your thoughts. You'd feel a little lighter, you'll feel better, and that could be your reward. And you can cultivate this habit every day. Let me give you another example. Okay, so when we are tired, our mind triggers a need to work on the tiredness. So most of us who are coffee addicts, which I am too, we resort to the behavior of drinking the coffee. And what does the coffee do? It makes us active, it makes us fresh, it makes us perky, and that is our reward. So we make sure that this cycle is repeated every time we feel tired, and then we drink the coffee. This is one question that I want you to take away from today's session and think about. What healthy habits are you looking to add to your day? Let it be simple, let it be just one, but something that you want to start from today. Okay, another way to combat our professional and our psychological stress is writing a letter of gratitude. I know this sounds a little childish, but this is one way to make sure that you're there for yourself. We are often always there for everybody. Imagine a friend comes to you with some emotional problem or emotional trouble. You listen to them, you talk to them, you help them out. What do you do when you have the similar thoughts or feelings? Do you actually listen to yourself and help yourself out? So I want you to write a letter of gratitude. Okay? A gratitude letter is something that you're grateful for in your current, in your present. What do you have? What are you grateful for? Even in this COVID situation, there are a lot of things that you should be grateful for. I'm sure you are. So write down the letter and read it for yourself. Keep it to yourself as a souvenir. This is one important sentence that I use in almost all my client sessions. The only relationship that you will have for a lifetime is the one with yourself. So why not work on that relationship more than you're working on other relationships? Be kinder to yourself, be nicer to yourself, be grateful for what you have, and acknowledge yourself. You wouldn't believe how I have been taking this lockdown time period of 4 months. I have been actually doing a lot of self-reflection. And there are a lot of clients who also come in for the same. So I just tell them one thing, that is, lockdown time is nature-given gift to you for self-reflection. Use this time wisely. Instead of worrying about what is happening in the world, how the world is going to be, how the future is going to be, constantly stressing about what is going to happen next. We never know what is going to happen next. Use the present time, use the current time to self-reflect. Again, rethink to evolve. Thank you for your attention, everyone. I'm glad that we almost wrapped up in time. Hope you are charged to take care of yourself. And yes, rethink to evolve. This is one sentence that I use always, that we've been living in a certain way. And if we keep living in that certain way, there is no growth, there is no change, there's no maturity. So to get that maturity, to get that change in living, rethink and evolve. Thank you once again.
Thanks, Manisha, for that excellent session. Manisha, there is a request that you stop screen sharing. Can you try to play the video once now?
Okay, they want the video to be played?
Yes, yes.
Right, let me try. Is it visible, Prithvi?
Yes.
Okay, so before I start this video, I want you all to just keep looking into this video, and whatever you can see in this video, do tell me by the end of the video. This was done by a very famous psychologist, Daniel J. Simpson, as an experiment. So, yeah. Well, yeah, I wanted to stop just before the answer, but did everybody guess this answer right?
I will enable the unmute option for everyone so that we can have an interactive session.
Right. Okay.
1 minute. 1 minute, Manish. Manisha, you can unmute yourself. So participants, you can give your answers. You can unmute yourself and give your answer if you have got any if you've got it right. I've enabled the options.
I only saw right. I can get the answer from Vishwanand. Sir, yes, I got it. Deepin, no, I didn't get 16. Somebody else said I saw a monkey which came in. Right. So let me go back to the video. Right. Okay. So did you?
I think JK.
Was there a monkey in that? I didn't see at all.
Right, sir. I'll play the video again. Kindly let this get over.
Yeah, there was a gorilla boss. It came just, made 2 steps, beautiful steps, and went off.
I was
Right.
not looking
Did
at that.
everybody get to see the last part? Can I please request everybody to mute yourself and just read this or hear this? Right. So let me briefly tell about what this was. So this psychologist tried to bring us to understand how our mind is always having prefixed things, and we miss out a lot of opportunities. We miss out seeing a lot of other things because we only focused on one particular thing. So 99% of us do get the answer wrong or just only see the gorilla, but we miss the curtain changing color, and we also miss the player leaving from the chat room, from the playroom.
I think you can share the link on YouTube for people to watch it again, because with more clarity on the audio.
Yeah.
But yes, what you said is quite interesting, because first time I saw the gorilla, but I didn't see the curtains changing. And I'm sure JK sir must have also seen the gorilla, but not the curtains changing the color.
Yes, I also didn't see the color change.
Yes, sir.
I didn't see both at all. I was only looking at the ball and the white bunny, that's all.
Play the video again. Let us see once again.
Understood, sir.
Minute only we can see.
This time I think everybody will spot the gorilla, spot the color change if we play it again, because the mind has remembered what it needs to see now.
But I'm sure like they will miss out on the number of passes, which was the first one.
Success of your training. So now we are focusing on that. Let us see.
Okay, so thank you, Manisha. Now the floor is for the participants. If you have any queries or any
Feedback is also
about this
welcome.
thing,
If anybody has any feedback or wants to share what they have learned and wanted to apply.
In fact, Manisha, Dr. Krishnanand, I think he missed the first part. He put up a question in the chat box, which I've already dealt with it, but it would be nice if you again. So his question is, what is mind?
Okay, right. Yeah, I just got the question. Right. So can I just, okay, play the presentation as well again? Just
No, it's okay. You can just share it like that.
Right. I was going to talk about the mind again, but I want you to specifically see what this is. Okay. So, Sir Vishwanand sir, this is something for you again. What is the mind? Now, if we actually see, the mind is everything that we have, from what we do to what we feel to what we think to what we sense. Everything is there in the mind. Um, Scientifically it's in the brain, but we all know that the mind is what is telling us to do something or telling us to feel in a certain way. So mind is everything, and what is required is to make sure that we take that mind seriously, just how we take our body seriously. And we learn ways to cope with different things in the mind, in the body, but we also have to learn how to cope with the mind. The mind has two components. One is the cognitive aspects and the non-cognitive aspects. Cognitive aspects, as we know, is everything to do with thinking, judgment, perception, reasoning. And non-cognitive aspect is what we say we feel, right? So, which is our heart feels like something. So that is your non-cognitive aspect, which is also a part of your mind, right? So the nature of our mind is actually to be active at all times, but we need to learn how to make use of that activeness and give it rest whenever it's required. Because, sorry?
No, no, that was by mistake.
Okay, no problem. So, but anything that is too active can destroy its own essence, right? So the mind can be having a lot of thoughts, but channelizing those thoughts in the right way and making sure that we understand our own mind and use only when we need the energy from the mind to come out is what is important, to know how, you know, we can control the activeness so that we don't destroy the value the mind can give.
Thanks, Manisha.
I hope I've answered your question, sir.
Yes, yes. Dr. Krishnanand sir asked that question, and I'm sure he would have. Is there any other questions or any, because Manisha has told me before that this is not what she does always. Her sessions are more on interaction basis than to take an entire seminar for an hour like this. Also, if there's any point which you want to interact with her, and if there is any query, you can definitely ask. I see hands raised by Swaminathan sir. I just Swaminathan sir, you can ask
Yeah.
your query.
Manisha, just tell me that why the stress is only in the morning hours. See, sometimes we just start to the court or something like that. At that point of the busy hours, we may have so much of stress. Even we had our food in the normal or the starting point or something like that. Why the stress in the day? That is between 8:30 to 10:30, still we reach the code. Why the stress is like that? Is it for me or for everyone? I don't know why it is, but I feel that it is so much of stressful at that point of time. Can you explain that? The most
Sure.
of the whoever goes for a work, they find it stressful at that point of time. Once they reach the spot, they get relaxed and other things. Why the stress is at the morning hours?
Definitely. So
I think
that's
that is
so.
a very, very important question,
Yeah.
especially for all us lawyers, because 8:30 to 10:30 is a peak time for all of
Very
us.
stressful.
Good
Sometimes we get
question.
anger. When the client calls up, we say that one, don't call me now, you call me afterwards or something like that.
Yeah.
And the stress is two part. One is in the morning hours between 8:30 to 10:30. And once we return back after the court work after 4:30, we get so tired. At that point, also we have a stress until otherwise we have a coffee break or something like that. We will be stressful or tired or something like that. Why it happens? How to solve this?
Right. A very valid question, Swaminathan sir. Thank you for raising this question, because it helps everybody in this seminar right now, I'm sure. Yes, we usually have the stress the most when we are supposed to go for a performance or supposed to do something out of our own best abilities. So this stress is good stress until a point, but it becomes a distress because we continuously keep thinking about how we're going to perform. So there is one thing in psychology that we say, the fears that we have, every human has, is the fear of rejection and the fear of failure. And this fear is the very basic fear in all of us. So when we are supposed to perform something or give our best in something, these two fears are already activated in the back of our mind. Now, how to control this fear is first understanding that this fear is very natural, very instinctive, and it also gives us a motivation to do our best. But when that time comes, so suppose 8:30 to 10:30 is the time when you get stressed the most. Just before that, remember that you have everything organized and plan the routine as such. Okay, you can do this the night before the actual day to work, because having a planned action for the next day helps our mind relax and understand what is expected out of us the next day. It is also important that you try this body scan meditation, Swaminathan sir, just before you sleep. When we sleep, we have a lot of thoughts, in our mind, especially about, oh, tomorrow I have to do this work, tomorrow I have to go to this person, to this chamber, to do present my case before the judge, etc. A lot of things are there just before sleep. So when you have all those thoughts before sleep, you sleep to those thoughts still in your mind. So you actually wake up with the mind still being active. So the whole point of this understanding of this entire mind is that we should know how to make it less active and give it rest, especially during the night. So before going to court, have your routine scheduled in a way, like have the pointers of what you have to do the night before you go to work. And also remember to leave your worries before bedtime. Do the body scan meditation, channelize your worries in a nice, in a good, healthier way, and then go to bed. And the next question that you asked, sir, is about how to deal with that feeling of tiredness and overwhelming at 4 p.m. Right. That's again a lot of tiredness accumulated, mental work and physical work throughout the day, which comes at 4 p.m. So once you enter your house after coming back from court, find a time, find a space for yourself to vent out those tired feelings. Sit in a calmer place. There's a good way to notice how we connect to nature. So when you are connecting to nature, a lot of the vibrations from nature calms your body. Come back and spend some time with your plants, or if you have a pet in your house, or just sit in a quiet corner and connect to the sound of the birds, or connect to yourself. This will help you, sir. Before you move to the coffee break, just 10 minutes of letting go of all that tiredness by connecting to something more calmer. I hope I've answered your question.
In fact, because of the stress, what happens is it happens to everyone, I feel so. When you start your car also,
True.
you may forget everything, whether we are driving in the perfect, it goes in the normal same route as it is.
Yeah.
Will be that creates a very big problem. How to relieve that stress, which is very, very difficult. See, because if I start the car from Virgambakam to my spot is High Court, if the same route is taken up, it will every day I will go only in that route. I will not deviate on any other route or anything. Sometimes you miss certain things. Those I feel that it is very difficult. You should be. They say that when that your night sleep is, if it is not proper, you will find these problems. Or
absolutely, absolutely. And it's important to be focused in the present. That's what mindfulness teaches us. I've had a very short time of giving this concept, but I would love to take another seminar on just mindfulness concept and how we can apply this so that our mind is focused on the present, on the here and now, and it's not missing out anything. Even while you're driving, you're actually connecting with the nature. So that is what mindfulness teaches us. I would love to do a seminar on that as well. But
I require a personal meeting with my family member, myself, my wife. I'll just get the number so that I'll have a discussion.
Sure, sir. I would love to connect.
Yes.
Any more questions? There are
JK sir wanted to tell a few things. I'll just there are a lot of questions in the chat box as well, but first I will unmute Jaykumar sir.
Sure.
So that,
Thank you.
and after that we can take up the questions in the chat box.
Thank you, Priti. Ms. Manisha,
yes.
I have to tell you it was a fantastic session. Not to flatter, I want to tell, because of two things, I'll quote and then I'll reach why I said so. See, in the opening, you said a beautiful thing like, what we are is what we think about ourselves, something like that. Yeah, I remember a French philosopher, René Descartes. He
Yeah.
said,
Yes.
I think, therefore I am. That is what is the famous quote. But now, what has happened is, in this very, busy world and this, pressing world, we have just become, you think, therefore I am. We have become slightly, what you think about me is what I am, like that. If you think I'm a genius, I'm a genius. And if you think, even if I'm a genius, and if you think I'm a fool, I have become a fool. So we are, I don't know where from the 17th century of Descartes, we have moved towards the philosophy that instead of I think, therefore I am, whether we have moved to an era where you think, therefore I am. So all the more we are trying to impress the opposite or the other person and try to reflect upon, and that is what I have become. That is one confusion which is always going on. I would love to talk to you on this on a private note. But
Sure,
you have
sir.
really ignited that. The most important takeaway I have to tell you from this session, I have to tell you, you made a fantastic takeaway. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Wow, that's fantastic takeaway, I have to tell you. Day for yesterday, my close friend Krishna, who was asking about what is mind right now, sent a good morning message to me. In that, there was a quote from Robert Frost. I always love Robert Frost. It said, the best way out is going through, something like that. Is always going through. It read that. It said, the best way out is always going through. Meaning, if you want to pass it, you have to pass through. You have to take it. And I connected with whatever you said. It was a fabulous takeaway, Miss Manisha. I have to really thank you. And you elucidated fantastically Robert Frost into those lines that I will remember for life. That is one thing. And your mindful and mindful was, as you rightly said, you have to come and take another session, because it was a very, very, it will captivate the entire audience, I'm sure. And the way you connected Zen and Buddha connects, so many connects you were able to make it. At this age, but I have to tell you, this generation is far, far superior to our generation. I have no shame in admitting it. I have to say that, in fact, in the opening dialogue, somebody was talking about Prithvi and said that, I think Vishwanathan said that, Puli 8 adi panjaka kutti 16 adi paidana. You guys are not even feet, I'm telling you, kilometers. I am very, very happy to see the next generation is in very beautiful hands with consider it as an intellect, thought process, delivery, communication, fabulous. And my last congratulations to the Chopda family. They are coming on with surprises. First was Prithvi, and now it is Manisha. And my salutes to you all. Thank you. Thank you for all your efforts.
Thank you so much, sir. In fact, what you spoke about René Descartes, the cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am, that's actually been my WhatsApp status for a year or more. It
Wow.
is actually very true and very relatable that how we've come from what we used to think about ourselves and how we are to what others think about ourselves,
True.
about us, and how we think about, how they view us. So it's very important to reflect. And I think this time, Sir Jayakumar, sir, this time that we have, the COVID time, I think it's a beautiful God-given nature-given time to reflect on what we are ourselves. And I can see a lot of us going back to the roots, going back to the Vedas, and going back to finding answers. And that is a good time to reflect and grow. So take this time as a boon, everyone. Take this lockdown time to understand your mind better.
Well taken, Ma. Thanks a lot. God bless you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, JK sir. Like my dad said earlier, you always you never fail to surprise us with your kind words. Thank you very much. It's very encouraging.
Thank you. Thank you. You all deserve it.
Manisha, there were a couple of questions in the chat box. So I'll just read out to you quickly. One is from Manisha Bhansali. She's asking, can I influence others' mind to be positive? family members in particular.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Lakshya, for this wonderful question. Yes, sometimes we want others around us to adapt to this kind of thinking and living, but it's not very easy to make somebody accept it until they accept it by themselves. So the self-growth, the self-realization starts from within, is what I believe in. But you can definitely introduce this concept to them, make them see how, thinking positively can help them. But if it doesn't, you have to wait until the self-realization comes from them. I hope I've answered your question.
I'm sure. There's another question from Soham. He wants more clarity on how to reduce cortisol, that is like stress hormone increase in the mornings.
Right. Okay. Can you repeat the question, Prithvi?
So he wants to understand, like he wants more clarity on how to reduce cortisol, that is stress hormone increase in the morning.
Right. Yeah. Cortisol is a hormone that actually increases our stress. And to control it, there's only one way: to understand what triggers it. Okay. So there are certain aspects, there are certain routine activities which triggers our stress more. So avoid the stress. I'd say even, environmental cues trigger the cortisol to increase. Suppose you have always felt anxious or always felt stressful in a particular environment or a particular, like Swaminathan sir had said, when I enter the car, I start feeling more stressed. So that is the trigger. So if you can change that trigger for yourself, the environmental cues, if you can try to change the environmental cues. Second, every morning, wake up and tell yourself 5 things you're grateful for in your life. This is a way to be feeling that, yeah, this life is worth it. So when you wake up, just close your eyes. It's going to take 5 seconds or 10 seconds, or do it when you're in the shower. Just tell yourself 5 things you're grateful for in life. It is sure to bring down your stress hormones. Instead, it will increase the dopamine release because you'll feel good about being having so many things. You will never know that how saying something to yourself would help you out. I hope I've answered your question.
I'm sure. One basic question: how do you replace your negative thought, or how to overcome your negative thoughts? This question is from Magesh sir.
Okay. Negative thought is something that comes because of our past experience about something, or because we've heard somebody talk about it in a negative way. And this could be anybody, from your parents, your family, your teachers, the authorities, or just your colleagues. So when we actually see something and find it negative, we have to remember that that negative thought or the negative connection to that thought is coming because of our experience from outside. If it is coming from within, it is also because you've grown up learning the same pattern. If you have to change the negative thought, it's in your mind to get a rethought about the same. Write down the thought in your journal. Okay, journal down the negative thought that you have, and then look at it and think about another perspective to it. How else could you see the same situation without being negative? How will you help your mind see it as helpful and not harmful? I hope I've answered your question, Manisha.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Before we end the session, there is a very good question which I have got. So there are a lot of times when we ourselves have our own personal pains and tensions, and at the same time there is someone who's already going through some pain or tension, and they want to come and share with us. Personally, helping them to get helping to sort out their issues feels more nicer. But is it right what I believe in is the question. rather than looking into my own pains and tensions, I am trying to overcome the others' pains, which gives some personal satisfaction. So, is it right? The belief, is it right? Or you think we
Um,
should focus more on our pains?
Thank you for that
That's what is the
question,
question.
Prithvi. It is a very wonderful question. It's bringing a lot of insight also. See, what happens is when we have the similar pain with somebody else and we understand their pain and we're trying to help them deal with that pain, unconsciously, you're also helping yourself deal with the same pain, right? So while you're talking to them and being there for them, giving them the solution, while you're being there for them, giving them the solution, you're also giving yourself another perspective to the same thought or the same feeling. So if you share somebody's pain and feel better, it is good. But if you're sharing somebody's pain and feeling overwhelmed, it's better to take a professional help. Sometimes we do pile up a lot of emotions on ourselves, and it's not easy to deal with somebody who's close to you and doesn't understand your perspective. You have to meeting somebody who can give you a solution from your own perspective, somebody who's non-judgmental and somebody who's a good listener and helps you see the situation in a better way so that you don't feel overwhelmed. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, that question was from Ashu.
Okay. Ashu, I hope I have answered your question. Do you have anything to add to it?
I think
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashu.
Manisha, your quick view on this. This is also a very interesting question by Priyanka Vadak.
Okay.
How is stress and fear related? How do we know that we are stressed or just afraid?
Right. A very, very good question, Priyanka. Stress and fear are actually two different things. Okay. Fear is a worry. Okay. Something that we are worried about, and that triggers the fight or flight response in our body. Whereas stress is um, a reaction of our body and our mind to something which we see as a fear or something we see as threatening. So although they are very closely related, there's a fine line between fear and stress. When we are encountered with that fear, so suppose you have fear of heights, when we encounter that fear is when we feel stressed. But fear as such is different from stress. To deal with fear, you need to first understand how that fear has come into you. And when you understand how that fear comes in, you will know whether that fear is real or unreal. So sometimes we also have unreal fears. There's a very beautiful acronym for a big sentence for fear, that is fantasized experiences appearing real. So that is fear for you. So fear is something which is not really that threatening, but you have it because it is in your mind that it is going to affect you a lot. So it is a fantasized experience appearing real. So when you have to deal with fear, you have to first make sure that you look at the triggers and view it as imaginative. Yes, thank you so much, Vishwanath sir. Today is
Thank you.
International Yoga Day. Yeah. Thank you.
There's one question from Gokar Nation, sir. I'll unmute him and then we can wrap up the session.
Yeah. I hope I answered your question, Priyanka. If you have any more doubts, you can always reach out to me and we can look into it more.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Gokar Nation, sir.
Good evening, madam. Very fine session.
Thank you, sir.
Very useful session for everybody. Now, my question is, an action or inaction by a third party which affects a person. I am giving an example. Just 1 minute. I'll give an example. Suppose a person filed a petition before a court. Hearing was over and the orders were reserved. But unfortunately, the judge was transferred. Again, the case was posted to a new judge. and that case is not even listed even after 3-4 years, assuming. Now the court is closed because of the COVID lockdown, all these things. Now the stress for the petitioner, how to overcome this? Because he is affected persons. Unless the court opens and gives a verdict, either in favor or disfavor, there is immaterial. Something to come out. So a case has reached the final level. Subsequently, again, come back to the square one. How to overcome this from your point of view?
This is like another case study for me, sir. And I can feel the pain in that, sir, because it's not easy to, come this far and then go back down. Like you said, he has almost reached the final stage of the hearing and he had to go back down to square one. And now this time of uncertainty which we have, it's going to be more stressful for that person. I can understand that pain, but I would also like to add to this, sir, that while that person could be in pain, again, to resist acknowledging that that is pain is going to bring suffering. Like just how I said in the presentation, let that person accept that this weight is there in him, in his life, and he has to go through it. So somebody had said a very beautiful line that you have to go through the problem to actually reach the goal. So you have to accept it, you have to be with it. If he is very overwhelmed or he or she is very overwhelmed with that, so it will be better to have somebody help him out to vent out his tension inside the mind. Otherwise, it is okay if he can resolve it by himself. Let him find some good coping skills. Let him use this time to build something better and not be overwhelmed by just waiting to hear from the court again. Again, the uncertainty can bring a lot of worries, but instead of worrying about the worrying, let him focus on the present and do something productive for himself. I hope I've answered your question, sir.
This is you leave it to God, because like our Chief Minister says yesterday, when the Corona will over, he said that only God only knows, like that. We have to leave it to God. That's all. Thank you very much.
True, sir. Faith is important.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
As we keep proceeding more into this session, we are getting more and more questions.
I am loving it, Prithvi. I'm loving so many questions. Like I said, I love an interaction session, but I understand if the time limit is there. Let's just take a few more, if that's okay.
Yes, we can take a couple of more questions. There's one question from Monica. How do we deal with people who wanted contribute to our stress? Ignorance doesn't come easily.
Right. Ignoring the person is not that easy. Yes. But I'll tell you one thing. When you know that there is somebody wantedly adding to your stress, you know that stress is affecting you, right? So one thing you can do is not let it affect you, because you can't change the person, you can't change what they're trying to do, or wantedly or unwantedly. You never know the intention behind that behavior. What you can do is distance yourself from being affected by it. Okay, so 2 or 3 quick solutions. Walk away from that situation where you know they are adding to your stress. Second solution, smile back. So smiling is a very powerful tool. We use it very less. That smiling at that time is not easy, but just fake smile, and you never know how, you're actually giving that cue to the other person that it didn't bother you or it didn't affect you. So you do smile and let it go. Yeah. And the third solution that I'd like to give you again is journal. You don't keep that stressor in your mind. If somebody has told you something and that stress is building up for you in your mind, don't keep it in your mind. Let it out. Journal. If you can't talk to somebody, just journal. Right? I hope I've answered your question, Monica.
I'm sure you did, Manisha. There is one question which I got personally, but rather than me reading out that question, it would be great if that person asked the question Sir. Uh,
Please.
I don't know. The name is Preet, I think. You can ask your question.
Preet.
Yes.
Preeta.
Preeta.
Right.
Preeta, you can ask your question directly.
Here.
Yes, please. I think there is some confusion that I was not very clear with the question.
Mm-hmm. Preeta, you can ask me your question. I'll be willing to answer.
Okay, so before she comes, I just want to quickly add on.
Ma'am.
Yeah,
Okay, she's come. Yes.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, I can hear you, Preeta.
Ma'am, Preeta wants to ask.
Yeah, sure. Tell me, Ashu.
Yes, ma'am.
Manisha, I assume there is some.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, please go ahead.
Can we take this question later on, if you don't mind, because we are in touch directly. We will talk about this question because there is some audio disturbance from your end, and we are not able to hear you, and we don't have enough time for the session. So what we'll do is we'll take your question later on when we talk again. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So there's one question from a colleague of mine, Jay Lakshmi. I just it's in the chat box. So she asks how to deal with destructive criticism or a bad remark from important people in one's life. Maybe that they do it unknowingly or genuinely. Oh, it's a very important, very nice question.
Thank you. That's a very, very valid question. It's a very interesting question also, Jay Lakshmi. So how to deal with criticism from people who are known to us, destructive criticism or bad remark from important people in one's life. Okay, two things over here. The intention of the other person matters. Sometimes what we do is we don't really think about why the other person said something or did something. Okay, so we are only thinking about our own reactions or our own perspective of that comment. So step yourself outside your shoes, try to get into the other person's shoes and try to see why they would have said the comment. Since they are an important person in your life, it could be that they're having that constructive command or comment for your betterment. Okay, so when you look in from their shoes, you'd probably see that their comment is to make you work better, work harder. Okay, for bad criticism is if you know it's been a pattern of their lifestyle, if they've always been doing this over and over again, it could be a pattern. So remove yourself from again falling back in the vicious loop. Look at it from their perspective, or look at it as something that is not that harmful. Okay, one way I tell my clients to deal with criticism is whatever they said, okay, project it in your palm. I hope you can see me. Project it in your palm. Like they've said something, imagine that they've written it in your palm, okay, and then rub it off. Okay, so it's not in your mind, but you've projected it, like how the projection screen does, on something which is outside of your mind, and then you rub it off. That means you are not giving that criticism much value in your mind. If it is helping you, it is good. If it's not helping you, you don't have to keep it. I hope I've answered your question.
Thanks, Manisha. There's another interesting question. How to habituate the body scan exercise daily? Like Chelian is asking. He has habituated with a trainer or an instructor. So people without any trainer or instructor, how do they get into this habit of doing the body scan exercise? Can you just quickly again? We just have a few minutes.
Sure. So you try the habit formation, which is having a cue and a reward, and a routine. Okay, so again, sir, like having a routine is very important, but with the routine, when you attach a reward, so suppose, say, when you're doing the body scan meditation, you tell yourself that tomorrow I'll give myself something you like to eat or something you like to do. You'll give that extra time to yourself. So you're attaching a reward to that behavior. So you will exhibit, your mind will exhibit doing that behavior more often, because you're attaching a reward to it. Okay, and another thing how to habituate is keeping a cue. So where are you going to do your body scan meditation? Mostly when you are on the bed sleeping, or when you wake up in the morning. So keep a cue. Every morning you either wake up to see that as a reminder in your phone or alarm, or you can have it written in your whiteboard or your blackboard, or just on a piece of paper and stuck to the wall. But keep that cue and give a reward to yourself. And most importantly, remember why you're doing it. What doing it will help you with. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, I'm sure you did. So I think we are running short of time now. Still, there are questions flowing in.
Wow.
So if you can
Very
just share your first page of the screen, and you can show our participants how they can connect with you.
Oh yeah, sure. I can do that.
So participants, you can connect to Manisha.
Right. Sorry. Just okay. I don't know.
Yes,
Okay.
So you can connect with Manisha on her Instagram handle, that is Rethink with Mani, or you can connect to her YouTube videos on Rethink with Mani, the same channel name and the Instagram page name. So thank you, Manisha, once again. I would just
Thank you
request
so much.
APS sir to kindly give the closing remarks, and after this we can end the session. APS sir.
JK praised a lot. So already it's looked like a Thanksgiving only. And as I said, it's a perfect session we today have for International Yoga Day. And it was a very enlightening session. It was useful to all of us. Really a stress reliever. And you have touched the other things also. And all the aspects of psychology, motivation, and stress reliever, everything you have touched. Thanks to Manisha Chopda. And we expect you to come for the next session on the mindfulness also. Thank you.
Thank you so much, AP sir, for this wonderful feedback and the opportunity again. Honestly, when Prithvi told me that he'd love me to do the talk for everybody here, I was kind of scared that how will I do it? But hearing all your feedback and remarks, and you've been very supportive as well. Thank you so much for encouraging me. And I've just spoken what I've known. And there's so much more, actually. Like I said, somebody said in the starting that psychology is a very interesting topic, and it's a very vast topic. So yes, there's something more if I can cover and I can be of help, I would love to do it. Thank you once again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, APS sir, and thanks Manisha for taking up my request to take this session. And definitely we will work out for another session on mindfulness. We will work on the dates and we will get back to you. So to all the participants, thanks for joining us today. The session will be put up in our YouTube channel, that is Madras Tax Bar Chennai, very soon. You can, I will definitely share the link with all of you. And please take care of yourself, both physically as well as mentally, after hearing this session, and stay home and stay safe. So thanks, Manisha, once again. I am going to end the session.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Have a good time.
Thank you.